Hey everybody, and welcome to the Vidor Locksmith Show. You're already trying to make me laugh, I can tell. Welcome to the Vidor Locksmith Show, where we're unlocking the secrets to success in the oil and gas industry. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been a really busy time here lately at Gibson Report, so we haven't had as many shows lately as I would have liked. It's also been difficult getting some of the people scheduled and in here. Luckily enough, and fortunate for everyone else out there, we've got the DSAT meeting, the SBE DSAT meeting coming up. And to be able to book in both sides of that, this week we have got Mark Anderson today, and then on the back side of it, we've got John DeWart covering the pre and post of the workshop for next week. So as I've already introduced, we've got an amazing guest here with us today. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Well, yeah, let's jump into it. Tell us.
Okay, so
I know that this is something that you've been working on.
So that has been my major project since I left Shell. It was one of our projects before Shell. So in 2013, we were up in Appalachia doing the automated directional drilling. And we had combined with our automation engineers from the refineries. And so we had proper automation engineers working with drilling engineers. And it came time for a BOP test. And us drillers were saying, oh, shoot, we have problems with the code. We can get in there and try to fix it. Oh, we can take a nap. And the guys from the refinery were getting really excited. Oh, we know enough about drilling BOPs. That's process safety. That's very important. And you're going to test them, and in a refinery, testing process safety equipment is like the pinnacle of an automation engineer's sort of career. That's what you really, that's where they put the very best people on. And so we're, it's just a BOP test. And so we allowed them to go witness. We sent a drilling engineer. You don't want these people wandering around location,
aimlessly,
unaccompanied. Went out and they saw what we were doing for BOP testing.
I can only imagine where this is going.
and they saw a analog circular pressure chart, and they saw a choke manifold that's not the best maintained piece of equipment on the rig, and they saw a third-party pumper who had pulled up, and handwritten logs, and they said, this is process safety. Is that the best you can do? And we had to look at our shoes. Do you know what I mean by that? No, you look at your shoes. Oh, yeah. Well, that's really
Is that when those guys go, okay, while you guys are drilling, we're going to stay over here?
Yeah, and so we looked around and we saw that we had a real problem with. Not a problem, we had a real opportunity with BOP testing. It was really a neglected process. So while we have everyone working on ROP optimization and directional drilling and flat time reduction and all these efforts with tremendous resources, BOP testing was really neglected. So we're still using analog equipment. So think back to your directional drilling days of the multi-shot with the film.
Yep.
So that's the equivalent we're doing today with BOP testing. So there was an analog to digital component of the project, and then we could automate the project, turning valves. Offshore on our TLPs, we have people harnessed up, ready to be lifted up into the air to turn a valve during the BOP test. Okay, and then leak detection. You have people out there with hard hats trying to listen to the different valves to figure out which darn valve, I was about to swear, which darn valve is leaking. And so we had a analog to digital, and then automation, and then applying analytics to it, which is really convenient that we found that project, because Shell made as much value from that, more value than we made with the whole SCADA drill project that really didn't, although it's a technical success, it really didn't add value, And so I guess that's one of the features of being in a technology team. You start down the road and you end up someplace else. If someone would have told me before we started that we're going to make more value on BOP testing than drilling automation, I would have thought, you're crazy. But it's just a neglected area that we as an industry can improve.
That's one of the I really like about that story is that you brought people from outside of your group to be able to look at just normal. You weren't look at the specific problem. You were just like, look at our general operation, and they were able to find something. Because I always find that it's that crossbreed of different industries or different groups to where somebody will come into a group, look at what you're doing, and go, "You got to be kidding me!" And they're like, "What? Are you serious? Like, this takes you how long? 5 hours? We do this every day, all day, and it takes us 5 minutes. Why are you doing this?" And then that's where that innovation really kind of takes off. As somebody else just walks in and goes, "Yeah, no, you shouldn't be doing it this way." And it's like, "No, this is what we've been doing. This is what we do." And it's like, no, please tell me no.
Well, that's and it's also an opportunity. So everyone I brought into the team, we had about 25 Shell staff, another 15 or so contractors, sometimes more contractors. But whenever they came in, I just said, "Listen, you're the new guy. We value you so much because you're going to be able to tell us what we're missing because we see it every day." Safety is the same. You walk by something and you see it every day, and you don't notice that little drip because it's always dripping. Someone else comes by, "Oh, look at, there's a leak," and you say, "Oh my gosh, I looked at it every day." There is a leak. We have to fix it.
It's the virgin mindset and virgin eyes to an issue that you can be sitting there working on something for 20 minutes, and then somebody else walks up and goes, "Oh, you're looking for Waldo? He's right there." It's like, I've been looking at this thing for 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
And that's, I love doing that with my kids, by the way. So,
yeah.
Anyways, so as far as y'all's development to be able to do things, obviously the internal workings of this at Shell, it seems like you are, for lack of better words, you're an entrepreneur within the group there.
Right. So I hear a lot, there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of hype now about being an entrepreneur, which is great. And I just have this feeling that there's a survivor's bias in these stories we hear. We hear about the successful ones. When you go to a Christmas party with your friends, you don't hear about the guy who says, "Well, I left my job with ExxonMobil and I became an entrepreneur and I can't feed my family anymore. It's ramen noodles." You don't hear those stories. What an idiot was I. And so I think that there's a survivor's bias in all this in entrepreneurs. They're great stories, but inside companies with the capability of a Shell or an Exxon, Chevron, the majors, you have a lot of capability and a lot of ability to innovate within that company. So you can be an intrepreneur. You can, within that company, you can get projects going and you can bring resources to bear that an entrepreneur outside can't get that those resources for. So it was really fun within Shell to try to be innovative, trying to bring people in who are innovative, and say that you can be innovative inside a company like Shell.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. I mean, within reason. I mean, you can't, you can't be innovative and fudge your expense report.
Like I do every day. So, how much does it differ having? Because obviously, I mean, you're working with one of the super majors.
Yep.
Probably one of the largest companies in the world. At times, y'all were probably the largest market cap organization.
The definition of big. Yes.
You're in charge of like the highest level you're the pinnacle of drilling within one of the largest companies in the world. So it's like, you and ExxonMobil probably butting heads and screaming in the rivalry there.
Yeah.
How does that differ now that you're out? I don't want to say you're on your other side of the fence or outside the walls, but like, you've now you're blazing a new path as far as being an entrepreneur yourself.
Right.
How much has that differentiated those two lifestyles there, or even just workflows, or just how would you describe the difference there?
Well, I am so fortunate, and I ended up staying with the same company for 37 years, and I have a pension, and I have a 401k, and so financially I'm in very firm territory, and it is so much being better being an entrepreneur when you don't when it's not like I don't have to worry about making money, but it's like if I don't make money in November, well, my wife and I are still going to go to the same restaurants. I mean, it's okay. So that provides this thing, and then with that I can choose to do kind of what I want to do, and really choose to do what I want to work on. So the BOP testing automation. So I don't want to talk about legacy, but if I could be working on something that would change the way we deal with BOP's process safety and improve the industry, well, I think that's pretty cool. And if I can do things, I'm mentoring folks younger than me in the industry, I think, well, that's pretty cool. And then I can sort of divert myself to things I really kind of like.
Well, we'll save that because I'm going to ask you about that one a little bit later.
Okay.
We actually got another question in here. So how do you automate a manual valve?
Okay, excellent. So you have a valve, and it has a stem, and it has a handle. Well, you just remove the handle, you put a little device on it that's hydraulically activated, put the handle back on top. So when you want that valve to turn, you just send a hydraulic energy to it, and it just turns the valve. And then you have the handle on top. So if you ever want to manipulate that valve manually, you just go and you crank the valve. So it's a little API valve 6A retrofit kit that sits right on top of the normal valve, the stem where you put the handle, and then you have the crank handle above it.
So what I was surprised is I recently learned this. So one of the last Vidor Locksmith shows I did is when I was in Calgary. I was interviewing a guy by the name of Brett Shell, works for a company called Cold Bore Technology. Right. And they had made several pivots in their little entrepreneurial journey, but one of the things they ended up on was being able to digitally track the position of the frac head, or essentially the wellhead,
yes,
and being able to know which valves are open, which valves are not.
Yes.
And when he was telling me, he was like, "Yeah, nobody else has done this," and I was like,
Yep.
"What?" Like these are things that I think of like.
So the number that valve positioning was another thing that our BOP testing found. The number you're relying on humans to go out and line up the valves for a BOP test, and we all know that we all make mistakes, and I
haven't made any mistakes on this show, by the way.
Okay, yeah, or in our lives, So valve positioning was a very important factor, and if you can have assurance of that, well, then you get a better BOP test. But so we did valve actuation, and then all of a sudden we say, well, we have valve actuation. Why don't we just turn the valve? And that's really a relatively simple little gizmo, about that big. We're trying to figure out how to get an electric one, but then you need hazardous area classification.
Class 1, Div 2, everything else.
So right now we're doing the hydraulics.
Wow. So as far as being able to, do you believe that we can automate the BOP testing process? Or is it just make better processes for being able to do it?
Okay, so let me try to clarify one thing that gets misunderstood a lot.
Excellent.
There's autonomous, and then there's automation.
And then there's remote ops.
And remote ops, exactly, for in directional drilling. So you can automate, but you don't have to go to autonomous. So ABS braking in your car. It's a automatic way of improving braking skills on slick roads, but you still have a human operating the brake pedal. So
Yes.
it's a way of using automation to improve performance. So I diverted and now I just forgot the question. I wanted to
Autonomous versus
Okay,
automated.
and can you automate the whole BOP testing? Absolutely, you can. There's no reason why you can't have a device. We have done this in the workshop. We have not done this actually on a drilling rig yet, where you walk up and you just say, make sure all the valves are lined up, make sure you have the fluids, that you just press a button. The controller ramps up a pump, a PLC on a pump, to low pressure, holds it for the correct length of time. You get a successful test, then it ramps up to high pressure, holds it for a successful time, then dumps the pressure. That's pretty easy to do. Turns the valves to the next test, starts the test over, low pressure, high pressure, dumps. And at the end, you get an automated report spitting out. The automated report we already have. And it spits out and says a successful test, and these are the valves that were operated like this, and it gives you a complete test. So absolutely you can do that.
Wow. How far off do you think we are from being able to implement that into
A purchase order. Oh.
the question that how do you define commercial? When somebody gives me money.
Yeah. When somebody pays, that's good. Yeah. I think the whole drilling area is going this way. I think many things on the rigs are right now. If I think back of when I first started, they were very manual, and now we're starting to see more and more and more automation. So, tripping back to bottom. I think if you're a driller and you've done that, 20,000 times, it's probably pretty boring. Wouldn't it be nice to just hit a button and let the drill bit go back to bottom? Manipulate a top drive, draw works, mud pumps. Only 3 devices is relatively simple.
So what areas do you think automation is that there are the biggest gains to be made within automation in the industry?
Very repetitive tasks. So MSE, you had Fred DePriest on.
Yes.
Okay, and so you want to minimize MSE. Well, as you're drilling a stand down, you have a driller there on the brake, which is now a joystick, and he's trying to minimize MSE. Well, how boring would that be for 30 feet, 90 feet, whatever, drilling and just manipulating a joystick? Why don't you just go into like cruise control and just let the machine do that? We had a technology at Shell, soft torque rotary systems that mitigated against stick slip, and that had to have such low latency that it had to be embedded in the VFD, variable frequency drive. So it couldn't even be at the PLC level. It had to be closer to the machine.
Wow.
But does a driller really care if the top drive's rotating at 60 RPMs and all of a sudden it goes up to 61, 59 for just a couple of fractions of a second? He doesn't care. He just wants to drill without stick slip, and so this is a way of augmenting that. So I think that you'll see a lot more of these sort of automated helps going into a drilling control system. So you press minimize MSE, and the program will just take it on and do it. And then the driller can sit there and say, well, geez, I have a casing job going up. How are my casing slips? When's the last time we looked at them? Hey, roughneck, go down and check, and check to make sure make sure the equipment's lined out for the next check. So there will be a human in control, but the tasks that he's doing will be more and more automated.
So that's a great point, because I know that there's a lot of people, especially within the directional drilling and MWD space, who, there's a lot of, I would say, negative pushback saying like, oh, no machine can drill better than me, or what's going to happen when it gets, when, you're drilling through the barnet and then all of a sudden you start losing angle and, those kinds of things. How do you, I don't want to say how do you combat, but how do you engage in those kind of conversations?
Okay, so regarding, I think things are changing a lot in directional drilling. So let me play a little bit of devil's advocate.
Go for it.
Okay. When I first started, we were doing single shots with a little disc and a little pin, bringing back up, and then we multi shots with film, and then we went from an analog to digital conversion. All of a sudden, we had electronics and we had downloads. But the download from directional drilling is a fairly difficult one to get it into the control system. Now we're getting the tools, software tools, to decode the signal being sent up by the MWD. It's going into our control systems, and our control systems are smart enough, and they certainly have the compute power that they should be able to calculate ahead of the bit. So when your directional driller is trying to project ahead, he's doing a calculation. Well, what are computers really good at doing? Calculations. And so it can calculate for you, and it can calculate how much of a turn you need to correct back to the well path. And then you can have a human who's supervising that calculation and that action. And then that sounds like a pretty boring job. So why don't you let one person look at 3 rigs at the same time, and he could probably look at 3 or 4 rigs at the same time. And so to do that, you have to have the guy away from the rig, looking at 3 or 4 rigs. So he sits in a control center, and what I've seen from our remote operations centers, they're pretty nice jobs. Yeah, you're in an air-conditioned office. You get off shift. You can go home and see your daughter out in her soccer game. So they're pretty nice jobs. A lot better than being out on the rig with mosquitoes and humidity and
hands
and MWD hands, and everything else. And so I think that you're going to start to see that. The very best directional drillers, we want those guys on location because they can make us a lot of money. It's actually the worst directional drillers that the operators really do not want on location, that we want to have removed from our operations. So if we can centralize decision making, and we can have control of that, making sure that the very best people are there helping the machines. It's not machines alone, not computers alone, but helping the machines. Then we'll have less people per rig, and we can let the worst directional drillers find other employment, or send them on the way to find other employment.
So do you see that there is because this is one of the things that Matt Isbell with HESA talked about in his SPE presentation, was that it's not so much about the cost savings, but it's more about the performance variation.
Yes.
That now we're getting, instead of having the best of the best all the way up here, the worst down here, now we're consolidating that gap.
Yes. So the classic when you start to digitize and then automate, what you'll see is the variation of an activity, time, ROP, whatever, reduce. And so you'll start to see a narrowing of that. So it's much more consistent. Then you worry about process improvement. So you narrow the variation, and then you start to improve. And what can narrow that? Well, you can have the trainee directional driller. Let's call him the night directional driller. Mm-hmm. And the day directional driller might be able to just keep up with any automated system just as easily, just as good. But then the night hand, well, he is woefully behind the automated system. So if you can remove that the night guy, the bad guy, then you're going to be money ahead as an operator. And I think that's what you're seeing in directional drilling is we have a analog to digital to getting the information into our real-time systems, and then real-time calculations, and then the top drive and the drawworks really don't care whether the electrons coming at it are from a joystick or a PLC. So then we just program the PLC to do it. And the first things you're going to program is the very easy tasks, the vanilla wells. So you'll hear this. Oh, geez. Well, in the last, I can think of a time we were down deep, and it was just turning us to the right, and I was the guy who was able to get back on track.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, automated autopilots in planes. Every now and then, you have to land in the Hudson, and you really and you really want the best pilot to land you in the Hudson.
Yes.
No automation system is going to be able to have, well, let's go through the landing in the Hudson routine.
Yeah.
But how about takeoff and landings? Well, those become pretty or keeping at 35,000 feet, not too high, not too low. I mean, that's pretty boring stuff. So I think you're going to see the easiest tasks, the most repetitive tasks, automated, and then people watching the automated system, and then Shell can bring in their PhDs to look at the process and try to improve the process.
Wow. So how does it, so we talked a lot about this automation stuff. How does this also incorporate into what you're doing with DSATS? And what is DSATS?
Okay, yeah. So
we're right there with it.
Okay, so Society of Petroleum Engineers is the professional society of petroleum engineers, or they're trying to rebrand it, the Society of Professional and Engineering. Society of Professionals in Energy. Because there's lots of things like geothermal that use the exact same skill set as petroleum, but geothermal doesn't have petroleum. So try to make it a little bit more inclusive of the new energy mix that we see coming up. So Society of Professionals in Energy. But the Drilling Systems Automation Technical Section is a group within SPE. So SPE has different footprints. They have a regional footprint, a local regional. So you have the Houston chapter, it's called the Gulf Coast section. You have the SPE Midland, you have the SPE Oklahoma City chapters. And those do things for the membership in those different catchment areas. Then you also have groups that look at a particular thread that cuts across geographical areas, in this case, drilling systems automation. So, it must be about 10 years ago or so, maybe a little bit more, we saw that automation was starting to come up. I wasn't in on the initial phase, I was just in on the second phase. We saw that drilling automation was a thing that will be coming. So we formed a group within SPE to talk about and educate our membership about drilling automation. And so we do various things. One of the things we do is we put on events. So there's an event coming up just next week where it's a workshop. So it's going to be 2 days, a whole list of speakers. Last week I was in Bahrain, and there was a drilling automation workshop also in Bahrain.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a mental note to ask you about that in a little bit, how that was.
Excellent. And so we have workshops to educate the membership. Then we also have subcommittees to do things like to write a document. So we've commissioned our members to write a document, SPE paper, for example, on various aspects of drilling automation.
Your favorite thing to do, right?
My favorite. I'm not a good writer, so I was much better at delegating that writing task when I was with Shell. And then we have the drilling systems automation roadmap, which is a document of about 350 pages. And what we did is we tried to do that as SPE, and we really failed because SPE is a voluntary organization with everyone having full-time jobs anyway. So we converted that into a joint industry project that different companies, Shell, NOV, Baker Hughes, pitched money into at $10,000 a piece. And then we hired a technical writer, talked to John DeWard. He was the guy who led this effort. Yep. And we came up with a document of about 350 pages about the future drilling automation, how drilling automation will develop, what standards you can use, how are you going to worry about interfaces, the levels of automation in terms of data collection, in terms of analyzing the data, in terms of making a decision to take action, and then taking action. So the different levels that you can have within drilling is not just one thing. There's a multi-dimensional sort of thing. And this document that's free for anyone right now is on the web, Drilling Systems Automation Roadmap. You can run in and look. There's the Drilling Systems Automation Body of Knowledge, which is a website that's more of a forum, so that can be updated much more quickly than this big 350-page document can be. So there's a case where individuals can go in and depart their knowledge for the community's benefit.
Are you all also part of Drillbotics? Is Drillbotics?
Yes. So we incubated Drillbotics. So Drillbotics is a student competition. There's a 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot concrete block that has various things embedded into it, like rubber mats and wooden boards and pieces of slate. So it's just not like a one big hunk of cement. And those get shipped out to the various universities. And during the year, the students have built a drilling rig. I think there's a dimensional thing, so like maybe 4 feet high, 3 feet square is the area that it has to be in, and their job is to drill that cement. So they build themselves a mini drilling rig.
Does everybody get the same drill bit?
So Baker Hughes has given us the same drill bit, but they're not required to use it. So the Norwegians went and built their own.
Oh.
And everyone gets the same drill pipe, because drill pipe is one of the key design limiters, because you don't want to twist off. And so that was done for several years as a competition. The students love it. This year it's being taken over by SPE itself. So now it's the SPE sponsored drilling student competition. And this year, excitingly, there are 2 divisions. One is for the people who want to build a drilling rig, and the second competition is for people who don't have the resources to build a drilling rig. They'll do modeling. And so there's a competition revolved
Oh,
around
okay.
modeling. So we have two universities in Algeria participated last year, and they had problems with exporting their stuff from Algeria to Germany. But that's like real life. So you get into the oil field, and you're in an interview and you're student competition, and the guy says, well, how did that go? And he says, well, our drilling rig was really great. Our technology was really great, but we had problems with customs and logistics. And then the interviewer can say, well, how did you overcome that? And then, and so the students are learning all sorts of really useful things, not necessarily technology.
True real life issues.
True real life issues, yes.
I'll never forget, I was boarding a plane to go back from Sri Lanka to Australia, but apparently my visa had lapsed. So then I went on a tourist visa, and then when my boss at Schlumberger found out about that, I was on house arrest for like a week and a half.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't allowed to do anything because I wasn't under a work visa.
Shucks! I can only be on vacation here on Schlumberger's paycheck.
Yeah.
Now, how bad is that? I've had. Oops, I shouldn't say that, but there are worse things that can happen than I'm here on a tourist visa, so I actually can't work. So see you later.
Yeah. I'll say this: Schlumberger was not impressed with me. Not impressed with me. It was not a good move for my career health. But that's good that the students are learning that. And that they're getting that early on. Like, there are difficulties that you are not going to anticipate.
Okay, so let me give another plug for this for people, and students are always looking for sponsorship. I know that Texas A&M's team right now is looking for $10,000 so they can buy some equipment. A company who would like to sponsor them also gets to look at some of the best candidates for hiring. Because these are the kids who want to do more than just book learn. These are the kids who want to get in and do something with their hands. They want to do something practical. And so you can have a bunch of students who come out and they're very book smart, but they're really not particularly savvy. And then these are the bodies of students who are much more savvy mechanically, and these are the people who do great in drilling jobs, in operators and service companies and equipment manufacturers. So the real unkept secret is that the companies who sponsor get to see the best and the brightest of the type of students who will do excellently in their careers. So they use it as sort of a screening, onboarding, or screening, sort of a
hiring tool.
A hiring tool.
Yeah.
So and for $10,000 to sponsor a team from the University of North Dakota or North Dakota State or whichever that is, you'll get to see kids up there who are really innovative, who are really trying good things.
Who are passionate about the industry prior to getting a paycheck from it as well. So that's definitely something there to,
So that's something that the DSATS, the Drilling Systems Automation Technical section, still plays a major part of.
So what can we expect from the workshop coming up next week?
Okay, so it'll be 2 days. The mission of SPE is to enrich the membership. So it's a professional society, and you as a member of the professional society should become enriched by reading technical papers, by being able to attend workshops, by lunch and learns, that sort of thing. And so it's slanted towards different topics. The topic that I'll be chairing with John DeWart is
who has actually commented earlier and said www.dsaroadmap.org, also dsabook.org.
Yeah, DSA Bach. Yep. B-O-K.
Oh, Bach. Oh,
yeah.
B-O-K, sorry.
Yeah. So those are the two sites for those documents that we put out. John did a fabulous job sort of coordinating that. And listen, a 350-page document is a lot of work. So hats off to John and the people who really participated. I did just the standard section, which was kind of fun in itself. Came up with, the number of applicable standards that we can just pick up and use. The ISA, International Association,
for ICWSA?
No, that's directional drilling. This is like the automotive.
Okay.
Automation,
Alphabet soup.
Yeah, and then there are all these. Anyway, we've become diverted again. And so what was the question? I'll see if you can remember.
You're talking about, you were writing the standards section.
Oh, the standard section of that, and that was pretty amazing. But we were going back to what we can expect for in the 2 days of the workshop. So the thing that we're doing is on human factors. Okay. So you have an automation system and you have a human, and it's going to be a long time, decades before you get a completely autonomous drilling rig. And there's probably no incentive, economic incentive, to go that far down the automation path. You can have a human who's operating a lot of automated systems and who's using what humans are very good at, intuition, control, looking for things that are outside the norm.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking, and letting the machine run back to bottom, letting the machine figure out what the minimum MSE is, letting the machine say, oh, I'm going to need to slide 45 degrees right of high side for 5 feet and just execute the slide. And then a human will be there. But how does that human interface with the control systems? I mean, we've seen recent incidences in the news about how pilots were not good at implementing or integrating with the 737 MAX's control systems. It ends up in a crash. So all that's classic human systems, and so that human has to be able to operate the machines very wisely. And systems engineering is a way of thinking about that. Human factors is a way of dealing with that. And these are topics and disciplines in and of themselves. And so safety was when I was in Bahrain, I was presenting in the safety section about how can we use automation to improve safety on a drilling rig. How can we use it to decrease flat times? In Bahrain, we saw some very good casing running tools. Neighbors and Weatherford put out very interesting reports on how they're changing casing running. So casing running crews. There's machines out there that are now able to do the jobs that you used to use manual labor for. I would love to see the day that our drilling rigs, individuals don't have to touch pieces of pipe. I mean, yeah. I started off in the days of the spinning chain, and we know we've done better than the spinning chain, but we can even do better than we're doing now. So over the 2 days, you'll see different topics, different slices of drilling automation, maybe through a slightly differential lens, but then you'll come out and you'll be more enriched about the concepts behind drilling automation. Because this is an SPE event, it won't be a big set of sales pitches. You won't have the service companies, and you can name them: the blue, the red,
and the green,
the new green, and the equipment manufacturers and the drilling contractors, one after another. You have to use my iron roughneck. You have to use this pipe racking. You have to use this.
I'm the best. I'm the latest and greatest.
Yeah. So
nobody else stands up to us, and it never fails.
Exactly, and the things that are really appreciated is how things failed and how you recovered, And so those if you ever get up and speak about that, those are always the real appreciated ones because everyone's failed. You know, I was talking with about our skid drill project with a drilling contractor, and I said, well, you know, have you bent pipe? And he looks at me, it's kind of funny, and says, well, yeah. And so we told stories about how we were on location, and we powered it was a rack and pinion rig, and we pushed the pipe down so hard that we bowed the pipe. We bent the pipe. Not good.
Yeah,
but guess
that's
what?
normally not in the good category.
No, that's not good. But you know what? Our system will never bend pipe again because we figured out how to, you know, what we did that was wrong, and we fixed it. A human crew with a rack and pinion rig, how are you going to ensure that they just don't go out and repeat that same mistake that the other crew did? So that's one of the good things about automation is once you learn something, you can learn it on every single drilling rig that has that drilling control system. And this other drilling contractor actually did bend pipe in a test. And then that's when you really learn.
Yeah.
You know, whenever I was when I was with Shell, and I had young people who shouldn't use young, new hires who didn't have a lot of field experience. You know, and you send them out to the field to witness things. If things were going right, they would learn. But when things were going wrong, they really learned a lot. So I would always hope that, you know, send them out when things weren't going right. And of course, things don't always go right.
Yeah. I always remember in my career, as far as once I went from working in the field to being a coordinator, that my level of my knowledge and what I was learning and gaining from that position went up exponentially because I went from dealing with the problems on one rig and just my rig, this is what I'm seeing, here's the problems I'm having, to, okay, now I'm watching over 10, 15, 20 rigs, I'm getting the problems of all of them, you know, at a much faster rate. The learning curve just gets really, really steep. And so then it's like, okay, in 6 months you're like, oh, like it's been hell, but now you feel so much more comfortable because you've seen so many more of those problems.
Okay, so let me take that comment and then turn that into remote directional drilling. Okay, so and for the directional drillers, you know, who are listening in, I think that there's a lot of change going on right now.
Yeah.
And so one of the drivers is that you have a center who, let's say 9 rigs, you have 3 directional drillers looking at 3 rigs each. The ability to learn from rig number 7 when they had a problem in formation X of a swing to the right and how to mitigate that, well, he can tell his 2 other colleagues, and then they can make sure that they tell the day shift, their 3 colleagues. So you have to communicate among the 6 people who are in face-to-face presence. It's so much easier than if you have the directional drillers on each drilling rig, and rig 7 has a problem. How is rig 6 and rig 5 and rig 4 going to know that?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to go, hey Steve, you know,
yeah,
to do one of those.
Yeah. Hey Bert, have you ever seen this before? You know, well, no. How are we going to do it? Well, we'll figure something out. We'll do a increase of pumps and let the tool face come back in. You know, whatever the method is. Oh, so we figured out the algorithm on how to do that. So next time that comes up, they'll be able to just increase differential pressure and the tool face will slide around.
And what's great there is that with those systems or within that environment, if you've also got in there the geosteering or geology group who can, hey, can you come over here, look at this? The other 2 guys whose rigs are pretty much doing nothing, can you guys? So now all of a sudden you've got potential of 4 people sitting there all looking at one problem. And then if you're like some companies that I know, that there's a particular company where there's the room where the directional drillers are doing their thing, and then there's all of the programmers who are in the adjacent, all the developers are in the adjacent room. And so it's like, as soon as this is solved, then it's like, okay, write it down, best practice, learn capture, take it over to the developers and say, hey, we ran into this issue, this is what happened, this is blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
And however, that can then get incorporated back into the feedback loop system.
So when we were first starting, when I first looked at this, for geosteering, the process was the people from the rig would send an email out to the geosteers. The geosteers would take and look at the logs and then send an email back and say, oh, we've changed our prognosis. You now have, the target is 5 feet deeper, 15 feet deeper. Let's make it significant. 15 feet deeper. But in that 5 hour back to back, you've drilled another 500 feet.
Yeah.
You know, so you're out of zone an additional 500 feet. So if you can get that feedback loop and say, oh, geez, look at this log. It's not at all what we expected. Geosteer. Oh my gosh, look at this. Let's call the geologist in. Oh, look at this. Oh, we just drilled through a fault. Okay, so we have to, all of a sudden, directional driller, the target's now 15 foot deeper. I'm on it, and bam, and they're there. And so if that takes 20 minutes, you know, you've drilled a lot less feet out of zone that, you know, might be according to the target, but, you know, the target is based on a prognosis of what's going to show up, and you can have that real-time speeding up. And and that's another very valuable thing when you're directional for the operator when you're geosteering.
Yeah.
When I first started, we used to have geologists on every drilling rig that we were geosteering, because that made the communication good. And then the geologists, they sort of migrated back to the office, and then you have this
the great migration.
Yeah. and I think that, you know, your MWD hands and your directional drillers are going to do that same migration. And then your drillers are going to have a lot better automation tools to be able to conduct a slide, to conduct RLP optimization, to be able to conduct BOP testing, all sorts of different operations on the rig.
So there's two other things I want to be able to talk to you about. How was the event in Bahrain? Because you talked about that a little bit just a minute ago.
Okay, so that was actually a really nice event. It was very heavy Saudi Aramco, and Saudi Aramco is just an oil company with like 270 rigs. It's a pretty amazing oil company. So if you want to be able to influence that company, you know, this was just a wonderful event to be at. So there were 160 attendees, or people that signed up. I did some counting of the people in the rig. There were like between 110 and 120 throughout the whole event. The presentations were largely the major service companies. So you know, Blue, Red, the New Green, NOV was there, Neighbors was there, and then a few of the small guys. You know, Mark Anderson, single member LLC, was probably the smallest of the small, presenting BOP testing automation. But it was very warmly received. If you look at the cycle, there's a technology adoption cycle. So you have your innovators, and then you have your early adopters, and then you have your people who are on that bell curve. The whole drilling automation, we're going away from innovators. Products are starting to emerge. You know, the SCADA drill was just an innovation project, it didn't mature like Shell wanted it to, but you have Motive down who they've been able, and they did not present in Bahrain, but they've been able to have a product that a company like Saudi Aramco could pick up. So there's an increasing number of products on the market, increasing number of good histories of drilling automation, and so that's what you were starting to get the sense of in Bahrain, was that there are more and better tools coming available for the likes of Saudi Aramco or Petroleum Development Oman or Kuwait Petroleum Company or whoever the people in the area might be.
Excellent. So then the other thing I wanted to be able to talk about to you is, I know outside of oil and gas, you've also started to do some volunteer work. So
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the program that you're doing there.
The prison program that, like we were talking about last night. So I got I was about to leave Shell after 37 years, and I was talking to another Shell guy, and former Shell guy, and he's been out, and he says, there's a program that you might be interested in, and it's a prisoner entrepreneurship program. And the basic premise is when let's say you do something wrong, let's say you get convicted, you do your prison time, and you come out, well, you have a prison record. And so who's going to give you a job? Okay, well, you're not going to be able to get a job that you might want, so what are you going to do? Well, how about becoming an entrepreneur? How about going to work for yourself? So the prisoner entrepreneurship program was built to help prisoners as they come out of prison become entrepreneurs, but really to give them skills. So there's a certificate through Baylor University that they have, and then they also have a pitch competition based on like the Shark Tank. So I'm an executive volunteer for this pitch competition. So we go up to the prison about once a month, and then sit down with prisoners to help them through their pitch competition for their business that they're going to start. And there are all sorts of great ideas. One guy is going to start a taco food truck. He was a Native American, so he was going to do the real Indian food, and he was going to have buffalo meat tacos the way the Indians do it. And another guy is going to do float tanks. So the idea that you go in the salty water and you can really relax yourself. So he's going to have a float tank business. And then they learn about the economics of a business that's a lot like the economics of a life. And a lot of these people did not have the type of upbringing that we did, where they had a chance to learn these. Lots of the people came from relatively underprivileged circumstances, but the thing about the people who they accept in the program really want to make a change. So it's really a nice program. So if you want to check that out, it's a Prisoner Entrepreneurship Program, PEP. Ping me on LinkedIn or whatever, and I'll send you a 60-second video done by the American Enterprise Institute showing how this is one of the premier programs. When I was up there, they had two people who came over from Australia to witness the program, because it's the gold standard in how you deal with prisoners. People who are doing their time, who have done their time, and they want a shot at life again.
Yeah, I was looking at the website before the show, and it's I think they have there's a prison in the Dallas area, the Houston area, and then outside of Austin.
Right.
So there's 3 locations.
And the one outside Austin is the women's prison. It's Lockhart, and they're starting that there. And men or women who can come in, especially women who can come in and help mentor that. And they're having more problem getting volunteers than Houston. Houston has a huge catchment area. A lot of people like well, there are a lot of people like myself who now have more time on my hands, but we still feel young and energetic, so we can go out and we can help. So that is just rewarding. Now you come back for that, you know. And I had a great career with Shell, and I had really good days with Shell. But a day in the prison with these people who really want to make a change, those are special days.
Well, it's great that you're doing that. And I mean, it's definitely one of those things to me. Like, it just sounds like an interesting concept. It sounds like something fun to be involved with, to be able to help people who are in a very difficult situation.
Right. And who have done things in many cases that are kind of the things that we've done and didn't get caught. You know, like you can imagine the type of things that they might get into, and we were fortunate that we didn't get caught.
Yeah. I have a friend who's a police officer who told me, I told him about some stuff I did one time, and he was like, yeah, you're not supposed to be telling me that. And I was like, really? And he's like, well, when did you do that? And I was like, so long. He's like, okay, the statute of limitations has passed. He was like, tell anybody else that. I was like, I didn't know that was illegal. I was like, oops.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that would have been federal prison. I was like,
And you know, don't want to get too political or too religious, but if you believe in like forgiveness and redemption, well, our prison system right now is not set up for that. You come out and you're branded a prisoner, and people won't hire you. And likewise, this idea that we mass incarcerate a lot of people who have done things that are wrong, but maybe there's a better way of dealing with them than just locking them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's something that we as a society need to improve on.
Well, I want to do this because we did get a handful of questions in here, and I've been kind of selfish in asking all of my own here. So we had, by the way, I was texting earlier. Chris Kirker texted me, and he was like, Mark Anderson, question mark? And so I told him, he was like, oh, I missed it. And so I told him I was like to jump on here. So hopefully Chris is watching now. Let's see here. Still requires, let's see. With automation 10 years from now, what are the challenges that you see future engineers/supervisors will be faced with, and how will their day-to-day task vary compared to the challenges of today?
Okay.
That's William Wobson from Well Operations. He's a Well Operations team lead. Thanks, William, for the question. We do appreciate it.
That's a good question. So I'll take
anybody who's watching, feel free to share this. Invite other people to be able to join in. If you guys let us know where you're watching from, and if you've got any more questions, let us know. I'm going to try to find another one while you're answering that.
Okay. So let's take the rig site people and then the office people. So with the rig site people, their tasks are going to change. You're going to have to be a lot more into maintenance of the sensors, making sure that the sensors are correctly calibrated, and then doing supervisory control of the whole system. So when we were driving up here, my wife has a nice new car, and it has adaptive cruise control, and it has lane keeping assist, and it has ABS braking, and so I'm still driving the car, but it's helping me more. So the driller will still be driving the rig, but there'll be a lot more automated systems to make all his life easier, and he'll get done with 12-hour shift, and he'll feel much more refreshed because he won't be having to do that thing. And then he'll be able to look at the higher level tasks on the rig. What's the next operations? Let's worry about safety. I have a green hand. I have to spend more time with him. Those sorts of things will be pushed down to, say, the driller, who will be the man in charge. I think you'll see less roughnecks on the rig, less needing to use physical muscle to push pipe around a drill floor. You'll see things like BHAs being sent out in the same length, So they're easily picked up by the rig, just like every other bit of tubulars. And that sort of thing. So there will be a high grade, and the drillers will become more skilled. There'll be drillers who won't be able to make the change, and they'll have to go, find more conventional things. But the people, not necessarily younger people, but the people who keep their skills up, who know how to interface well with these automation systems will be there. And in the office, you can expect a lot less variations in your activities. You'll have a very great suite of data that you can pull in to do your offset analysis. There'll be
Like GibsonReports.com.
There you go. You'll have a lot less surprises, because a lot of surprises, well, it was a surprise on the well that you drilled 2.5 years ago, but no one remembers. And so you get the same surprise again, so a lot less surprises. You'll want people who can program in Python. When I came out in 1980, graduate, and I was a digital native. I was one of the young folks, because I could program a computer with Fortran 4 and punch cards. And when I got to a drilling rig, I looked around and there wasn't a computer on site. I was one of the vanguards of this new computer age, because I could program.
So it was all your fault.
So I was, so now, 37 years later, we have kids who come out of, I call them kids who come out of university who can program with MATLAB and Python and R. Those are just going to be tools of the trade, just like we use Excel and Spotfire now. They'll be higher level programming, They'll be programming with much more capabilities. And so that will be just much more interface. I remember when the TI 59 programmable calculator was first started, and people were trying to get their minds around, how do I use that for the benefit? And then the PC came out, and then it was Lotus 1, 2, 3, and then it was Excel, and now we have better tools, Spotfire, the web. All these tools, and these tools will continue to improve, and the tools themselves will become easier. So at age 35 or 40, you just might have to go back and take a night course at the community college in programming.
Which, through the small business, Texas Small Business Association, if you are working for a small business, you can get free education assistance depending upon your salary level and what your occupation is. So if you're a small business that's watching this, either your owner or if you have employees, either one of those, you can get educational assistance. So I love being able to put that one out there.
Talking about assistance, I was going to plug SPE regional events. So many of the SPE, like the Gulf Coast section in Houston, they'll have lunch and learns, and you'll see a price for non-members, a price for members of SPE, and then a price for MIT, members in transition.
Oh, is that what that means? I always thought it was like this MIT students or something. It was like
members in transition. So that's half price. So actually, when I left Shell, I figured, well, I'm in transition, so I'm going to go to a lunch and learn, and I have to select one. So what am I going to do? Well, I selected the half price one. I wasn't getting any income anymore. So and then you go down. So those sorts of opportunities. The Alphabet Soup, the IADC, International Association of Drilling Contractors, they have events. The one that you're associated with.
Oops, I shouldn't be touching the mic, sorry. The IADD.
IADD is another organization.
Sorry.
Oh. The IADD.
That's another organization that if you are out of work, Maybe the thing to do is also to think about not just getting the same job that you had, but retooling, reskilling yourself.
I will definitely say this, as far as anybody who's ever asked me about getting a job in the oil and gas business, and I think it holds true not just to oil and gas, but to any industry. From my experience of having attended all of the, what I like to call the alphabet soup of the industry, right? And every industry has their alphabet soup. So we have the IADC, IADD, SPE, it goes on and on and on, right? AAPG, there's tons of them. And what I have always told people, especially people that'll reach out to me on LinkedIn, I say, start attending the local events. First of all, the people who attend those events normally are the office personnel or a little bit higher level decision makers that are in there. And even if at the first meeting, the second meeting, the third meeting, or the fourth meeting, you don't meet that individual that hires you, but you start becoming a regular and you start getting involved and having, raising your hand and asking intelligent questions, it just starts to ingrain you in that group, and then you're going to start to build a network of individuals who can vouch for you and say, yes, this person's intelligent, this person knows how to ask questions, this person gets it, they see what's going on in the industry, and then you'll be able to start kind of connecting the dots. And what's helped me out a lot is by attending so many events, I'll see that, maybe at the SPE event, they'll say something that holds true or connects very well to something that happens at an IEDC event, and then an IEDD event, and then a PBAT event, and then this event, and then all of a sudden you kind of start to be able to see the trends, to where if you just saw one of those data points, maybe you can't really make a decision off of it. But when you start to see different things from different areas, it helps out with your understanding, and then it can kind of put you in a position to be able to say, well, this company should be hiring. This company should be looking for somebody of this nature. I could fill a role there. And then you could almost go to a company and say, hey, look, based on what's happening in the market, I think I would be a perfect fit for your organization. We should head this direction. And then also, you've created a job for yourself.
Right. And you could see that, oh my word, this directional drilling business is becoming much more digital, much more programming. So if I am really uncomfortable around that sort of thing, well, maybe I better take some online courses and start to learn, start to be able to talk the lingo, start to understand the broad concepts. So from my Fortran 4 programming on punch cards, I can talk to the young kids, and I know enough about programming that I can talk to them intelligently about them with Python, and I cannot write a line of Python, but at least I can relate to them, and then I have domain knowledge that maybe the young kids don't have, and then that's a really powerful combination.
It goes back to, I've said this on the show many times, where there's some TED Talks. Dr. Sean Gurley, who was one of the board of directors at Anadarko brought him on to be the guy that helped them with all of their big data stuff. And he's got some TED Talks that talk about how they put the machine versus the human in some chess matches, and then that evolved into man and machine competing, and how much stronger that system is.
Yes.
And so within the oil and gas industry, there's a lot of these guys who have that domain knowledge of 20, 30 years of experience out on the rig, and then there's somebody else who's got 5 years experience of coding on a program, and it's like, all you guys need to do is just find each other. And then you become a powerful team that can go forward and be able to take all of that experience and knowledge of why you say it can't be done with somebody else, and then make it possible.
In 1983, I was on a rig, and the shell company man said, "The rig is no place for a computer. There will never be a computer on the rig." And he had his typewriter in front of him. And a few months later, I was on a rig, and there was a company man who said, there's this PC thing coming out. So on my days off, I'm going to go over to the University of Missouri at Rolla, and I'm going to learn how to work the PCs, because I can see that that's going to be something coming. And you can guess the outcome of those two careers. You know, same shell, same thing. You know, which one was going to have a longer career than the other one.
Yeah. That's what I always love about the show, is just to be able to let people know, like, these are the things that are coming. You know, get yourself prepared, do whatever you need to do to be able to keep your value proposition as high as possible, to be able to compete. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. I haven't got
more questions?
No, that was actually, well, we had one. How will we overcome proprietary APIs of the spread of MWD software systems? Kind of a deep technical question there.
Okay, so what that question is really getting at is different companies will build a software package, and then they will want to keep it to themselves, and then they won't allow other people to access that, and then it becomes a real black box that you as an operator, you know, how do I know if it's good or not? You won't let me test it. You won't. You know, you just show me some broad highlights, and it's and we can't look, you know, underneath the blanket. I think that's kind of what that question is getting at. Well, what will happen is some PhD student will publish his API, and then Exxon or Shell will just press that service company to publish it, or we won't use it. And then an economic decision will have to be made by that company. Do we want to keep it proprietary, or do we want to make it open? You know, Schlumberger is now announcing that their whole Rig of the Future program will be built on an open platform.
Really?
Really. So I was sitting and the two guys from Schlumberger were just passionate. Really, you know, it really is open. And I said, well, you know, no one's going to believe you. And they sort of said, but it really is. So they'll have to do that. The NOVA system is reported to be an open system, and they're taking steps to make it more open. So anybody from a university master's student who does his project and he writes an app to it could be on there, or not.
Or if you're in the Drillbotics team and you come up with a great model and algorithm, you can...
Actually, there are a couple of teams that have patented particular algorithms. Absolutely.
Wow.
So that's great.
That's really good news, because it was just kind of the Novo system that was going to be this open platform.
Right.
And, you know, H&P had their thing, Neighbors had their thing, Precision's,
yes.
So they're kind of doing their thing, and Ensign's doing theirs. But now to be able to, if there's two systems that are going to be opened up and say, let the mass market... Yes. You know, because that's going to allow an operator's team, if they've got a technology team in-house, to be able to design and build something. That means the individual, myself, I could try to come up with something. Now, getting it tested and whatnot, I mean, obviously there's systems in place. I mean, so is this something that maybe DSAT's going to...
So I'm glad you bring that up, because so we have a subcommittee that's working on open models and systems. And so what they want to do is they want to have some data sets that are publicly made that we can run these algorithms through
to make sure they don't bend pipe,
make sure they want, and then to see the performance of those. And so the idea of having these very public data sets that become your trial sets that you're using to train the programming on, and you can see how they perform. And if they're common, then you should get common results. So then you can do bake-offs between the different programs.
Drill-offs. Yeah.
Drill-offs. You know, on a computer, just a simulation. But if you have the same data, you know, you just do that in a historical mode, and look at and analyze the data and see where you come out.
That would be really
And so Paul Petusik of ExxonMobil is leading that effort of data sets. And Equinor has been one of the most forthright of the companies making these public data sets available. especially for out of the Norwegian companies, because there really is that need. So DSATS is going to have its hand in there.
I would love to be able to see like a big tournament where everybody just comes together, and it's the Shell team versus the service company team versus the student team and the independents, and everybody just gets paired up in this head to head.
Just a big hackathon.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then see who comes out the winner.
Yep.
I would partake. I would need a teammate though. Maybe I could recruit you and Fred Dupreece to be on.
Okay, you have a problem, and that is we have no programmers. We have to get one of these super smart kids.
I've got a programmer.
Okay.
That's right. My cousin, the moonlighter of Gibson Reports, is the programmer.
Yeah.
We'll just tell him, just put this in. There we go.
He's the sleeper.
Yeah, he's the sleeper of the team. Oh, there's one other thing we didn't get to address. I totally forgot about. So you said you had a rebuttal to Bill Lesso and to
George King.
And George King. So this is finally we get the operator side of wellbore tortuosity.
Okay, so wellbore tortuosity, and so I listened to George. So my routine is on Friday mornings. I tune into the Vidor Locksmith show.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody else.
And I have my exercise routine. I try to stay fit. My extra team time for that. So I'm up on the elliptical machine and watching the show at the same time. And I almost fell off the elliptical machine when I heard George King say, "Drillers don't care about production."
Oh,
I mean, and
shots fired.
Shots fired, and it's like, we're not a bunch of us drillers are not a bunch of Neanderthals. We do get it, and we do want to deliver a quality wellbore. We do want to deliver a well that produces as much oil as possible, as much oil as makes economical sense, knowing that when we drill a well, we are a cost. We are a construction outfit, and we want to construct that well for as cheap as possible because that's money out of our company's pockets immediately. But if they can tell us what the value is of a wellbore tortuosity, is it less tortuosity? Is it $10,000 of value, or is it $100,000, or if it's $1 million, or is it $10 million? It's probably not $10 million because the wells cost less than $10 million. But is it? And if that's so, we will just throw that in to our decision making as an additional constraint, and we will put more money on making sure that we don't have the tortuosity. But right now, what I hear is, wellbore tortuosity is bad, therefore you shouldn't have wellbore tortuosity, but we can't tell you about how much money you should spend to eliminate it. Should you spend $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million? They can't tell us that. So that becomes really difficult for us when we go up to our management teams and say, well, I'm going to drill you a well and it's going to cost you $100,000 more because our production people, they have this feeling that it might pay off in the long run. So that's the problem. So they have to quantify it. And we did quantify that. So when I was in Gabon, we were drilling thin oil rims. And we knew that this up and down, this porpoising of the well was bad. And we quantified it because when you go up, you can cusp the gas down. And you also create these little dip legs where the water would catch, and then it would prevent production from further down the wellbore. And so we wrote an incentive contract of up to $100,000 more per well for our directional drilling contractor to keep it as flat as he could. And then we allowed the rig time to make sure that it was flat as he could. We had that quantified, and we put in place incentives. It's not like, us drillers are completely daft and we don't understand that production is important. It's just that we don't have the numbers right now from the production people to quantify that, to know about how much money and resources, rig time, extra contract costs we need to achieve that. So there's a rebuttal.
So is it just being able to get the number, or is it also being able to get the solution too, to be able to say that, you know, this is the thing we need to be able to do? Because like there's different
Yes.
levels of wellbore torture. I mean, there's obvious, you know, doing this,
Yes.
but is this too much, or does it really need to be just?
Well, the production people have to tell us. So let them tell us. And I also think that this tortuosity is much less bad than this tortuosity. So I think that if you're going to do a tortuosity factor, okay, then you have to find out what is really driving that. So in Gabon, it was very obvious that it was the up and down was a problem.
Yep.
Because you get these water sinks, and then to move the water up was a pressure drop and extra pressure, and we just suck gas down from the gas cap. We eventually came up with a retrofit completion design where we run a stinger down through that hump down to the next hump, and then that would become the heel of the well, and we could move that down the course of the well over the course of time, over several years, to get different drainage points. So we could move the heel of the well down the wellbore. So we came up with a way of mitigating that. But so my challenge back on this tortuosity is, tell us what the factors, tell us how much it's worth, and then we will go out and find the tools to make wells better, because us drillers really do not want to give a poor quality product. We want to give the absolute best quality product, best in terms of value for money, because there is economics involved. It's not just a science project.
All right, Bill, George, ball's back in your court, and everybody else that's on the tortuosity bandwagon. I know I've kind of been on it myself just a little bit, but I think everybody just seems to think that just surveying more is the ultimate solution. But I think that you're right, that there needs to be more work done as far as being able to quantify or directly link
the effects of tortuosity to production, and then you know your production, you MPV it, you have a number, and just an order of magnitude, and then you throw that back at the drillers, and we'll rise to the challenge.
All right. Well, we've been going for quite some time.
An hour and 44 minutes.
Oh,
we
geez.
still got people watching. So,
Yeah.
all right, I'll turn it over to you. Any last words? Anything you want to share with the industry, or the few people that are watching with us today?
No. I had a great career. I'm still happy to be involved. I wanted
Great career. It's still going. You still got plenty of work to do.
Oh yeah, and I wanted to challenge myself with trying to do different things. So this is something completely unexpected. So 38 years ago when I had started, would I see myself being on a live video stream before the days of the internet, before the days of this? Well, no, but this is a great opportunity. So thank you so much for inviting me here.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Mark. I really do appreciate it. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. As always, follow myself on LinkedIn, follow Gibson Reports. We've also got the Facebook page. Follow Mark. Come out and see us at DSAT next week. It's already sold out, but there might be people who don't show up, and you might just have to kind of wait there at the door and see if the gatekeepers will allow you in. It's going to be a great event regardless. Next week, on Thursday, I'll have John Wart here on the show, and we'll be wrapping up the other side of the DSAT meeting and talking about that. On Friday as well next week, we should have John Lassiter from Kinetic Upstream, one of the new rotary steerable technology companies that's out there. And John and I worked together for a short period of time, so that'll be a great interview as well. So I think that's it, guys. Like I said, thanks for watching, and as always, know your industry.